a day, everyone who really struggled earlier on with signal issues. That's continued as she's gone home. So we'll have some time back today. So hoping to hand over to you, Suzy, if that's okay, and then on to Georgie.
Yeah, brilliant. Lovely. Hello, everybody. You'll realise from your agenda that this should have been Dr. Mike Scanlon speaking. Unfortunately, he can't make it today. I run the chronic pain with Mike, so I'm just going to be talking to one slide, which I know really well too, but I am not a therapist like Mike, but I can talk to the slide and talk to you about staff wellbeing. But just before I do, I just wanted to mention, after Tayo's brilliant talk, about something that General Practice Alliance is doing within our organisation, and it's called Bridge the Distance. And what it is we've been matched up with someone that we don't work with. And the task is to go out for either a coffee or a walk and find out what that other person does. And I would highly recommend it in your surgeries that I mean, it's whether you want to opt in or opt out, but it's been really, it's brilliant to go and meet someone that you don't often work with and find out what their day job is. And that can be right from the practice managers, the clinicians, to the receptionist, because we're all important within primary care. So it's really interesting to find out what the other person does and just spend that bit of time. So I just thought I'd mention that. I will send the information after this to the training hub, just so they know what Bridge the Distance is. Okay, so I'm going to share. I've just got one slide, so let me share it. Because I can't see you now.
Yeah, you're sharing it perfectly.
Okay, lovely, brilliant. So I won't keep you too long, but I'm just going to talk round this psychological flexibility exercise and hopefully give you some thoughts around how we can look after ourselves, because we, working in primary care, we look after all our patients, we look after the staff within the surgeries, but sometimes we don't think about ourselves. So I'm going to talk around this slide. So I'm going to start with values, purpose and meaning. Now, this isn't about goals. This is about how and what is important to you and how you live your life. And then to think about how much time do you spend on what is important to you. So if I give you a minute or so to think about this. So who are important to you in your life? What is important to you? So it could be your family, your friends. It could be that you're a gym bunny and really love going to the gym and exercising. It could be that you love the outdoor environment. You love your hobbies. It could be all sorts of things. And I'm guessing that probably last on your list, and some of us love work, and I love my job, and I find it really rewarding, but I can guess that work is probably a bit less down on your list to what's important to you. Then what I want you to think about is how much time do you spend on what's important to you? And I'm guessing if your friends and family are a 9 or a 10, then when you think about how much time you spend with your friends and family, then it could be as low as 2 to 3. And actually, it's thinking about the values and purpose and meaning of our lives and moving towards who we want to be and who we want to spend time with. And I think the biggest thing a lot of people struggle with is no. So being able to have the confidence to say no if you don't want to do something. And this can be in your personal life or work life. It's about getting that work-life balance right and being able to have that confidence to think, is that important to me? Am I moving to the values and purpose that I want to be? And if not, I say no to that. Obviously, we all have busy lives and our jobs are very busy and surgeries are very busy, but it's about thinking, can we create space to be able to make more time for the people and the hobbies and the stuff of life, really? So the second one on this psychological flexibility is committed action. So it's moving towards what is important to you. And again, I say, can you create that space to be able to make that call to a friend that you haven't spoken to for ages? Maybe go for a walk with a person that you haven't seen for a long time. So creating that space to move towards those people, those things that you want to spend time, people that you want to spend time with. So we all, as I said, I know in primary care we all have busy schedules. Surgeries can be really busy. I know that sometimes you're not leaving surgery till 8-9 o'clock at night, but then it's trying to think, okay, so what can I change? How can I manage my time better? How can I move towards things that are valuable to myself? So, and have some self-compassion and kindness to me. So the next one is self as a context. So again, thinking about our thoughts, our feelings, and our images that we create in our own mind. So Mike and I do an exercise when we do our chronic pain course around. So you've been on this call this afternoon on the PLT session, and throughout this call, you've been getting text messages from your bank. And your bank has been hassling you all afternoon to say, your account's been hacked. You need to provide us with your account details and your password as soon as possible. Now, I know all of you on this call will be thinking, that's spam. And that isn't a real message. And of course, I wouldn't give my password to anybody. And I will be, no doubt, calling my bank on the proper bank number, not the number that's provided in the text that's been hassling you all afternoon. So where I'm going with this is thoughts can also be spam. And our thoughts are just thoughts. And we are all, I think everybody can have negative thoughts. They can think about, oh, I could have said that better. Oh, I didn't handle that situation at all well. Oh, I wish I hadn't have done that. But they are thoughts, and thoughts come and go. And one of the exercises we do is, it's worth writing down some thoughts and thinking about, am I going to keep that thought, or is that thought going to go? You could have a post-it note by your desk or at home on your bedside table. And if you wake, as I do, in the middle of the night, and I sometimes have some awful thought, I could write it down, and then in the morning I can throw the post-it note away, because actually it's just a thought. It's just in my own head. And thoughts can be spam. So it's thinking about, we are all so, what's the word I'm trying to think? We're all so hard on ourselves when we think about the day we've had, when we think about how we've handled things. But again, going on to the next one, cognitive diffusion, seeing your thoughts as what they are, products of the mind. Content remains, but no longer controls your behaviour. So another exercise that we do is we think about, okay, so if you have made a mistake or you've done something that is really bothering you, what would you do? What would you say to a friend? I bet that isn't what you would say to yourself. So it's about thinking about, how can we change our thought pattern to a much more positive thought pattern. And if we have made a mistake in our day job, or we have made a mistake in life, if your friend rung you up and said, oh God, today I can't believe what I did, I'm going to be in so much trouble, I bet your friends will say, you won't be in trouble. People make mistakes, and people will think more of you for going in the next day and thinking how you can rectify that mistake, and actually talking about it to either a colleague or a line manager. So it's again being kind to ourselves. So think about how we would talk to a friend, how we would talk to a work colleague if they had a problem. So again, it's thinking about all of these things that we do in everyday life, but moving towards the person we want to be and the people we want to spend time with, the committed action of how we're going to get there. Thoughts are just thoughts, they're spam. And then acceptance and willingness to be kind to ourselves, not be unkind to ourselves, and not be judgmental to ourselves. We've just been talking about EDI and how we've all got unbiased, all got biases in our lives. So it's about thinking, do I have a bias against myself and how I feel about myself? So again, it's about having those concerns and worries, but being able to think they are concerns and worries, but they are thoughts. And I can change those thoughts into positive thoughts if I think about how I might give advice to a friend. And lastly, I'm going to go back up to the top one, and I can send this slide out because quite a few people from our chronic pain course actually have this stuck on their fridge, and they remind themselves of the psychological flexibility when they go to the fridge. So we can send this out. But the last one is contact with present moment. So we again can live in the past, and we can worry about what's happened in the past, and we can also worry about what's in the future. What we need to do is live in the here and now and think about mindfulness thoughts and mindfulness ways of doing things. And I just wanted to touch on lastly for an exercise to do that I find really helpful, and it's called the 5-4-3-2-1 practice. And again, if I send out the bridge the distance exercise, and you are able, if your practices want to take it on and you spend time with someone that you don't know, you actually might want to do this exercise if you are able to get the time to go out for a walk. But what it is when you go for a walk and you've got a problem or your mind is all over the place, then it's worth thinking about the 5-4-3-2-1 practice. And that's at the start of the walk, relax, take a deep breath. Then think about on your walk 5 things that you can see, and actually name them. If you're on your own, name them in your head. But if you're with a work colleague or a friend, you can think about, each of you think about 5 things that you can see. Once you've named those 5 things, and you can do this at your desk actually. So I could say I've got a coffee cup, I've got a bank statement, I've got my mobile phone, I can see my headphones, and I can see a calculator. So that's 5 things that are on my desk, which actually my desk isn't particularly tidy at the moment. Then once you've done that, think of 4 things that you can touch. And obviously, if you're in nature, be a bit careful. Don't touch nettles or anything like that, but you could touch a tree. You could think about your feet on the ground and how you're touching, especially in the autumn, how you're going across crunchy leaves now that are falling off the tree. So things that you can touch. So think of 4 things that you can touch. Then you can guess what's next. 3 things that you can hear. So it might be I can hear the slight whir of my laptop. I can hear my breathing. But if you're out in nature, you might be able to hear birds in the trees. You'll be able to hear the wind rustling if it's a windy day. You might be able to hear rain on your window. So it's just, again, thinking about things that you can hear. Then 2 things that you can smell. So again, I can smell my coffee from my coffee cup, and I'm trying to think what else I can smell. my office doesn't really smell. But again, if you're out in nature, you'll probably be able to smell flowers. You'll be able to smell, you know, that sometimes when it rains, you can smell as the grass dries. You can, wet grass is another one that you can smell. And then lastly, one thing that you can taste. And then once you've done that exercise, you find that your mind is actually thinking about those 5 things, those 4 things, those 3 things, those 2 things, and that 1 thing. And if you do that on a walk, it's brilliant. It calms me and it allows me to be in the present moment. So that's where I want to finish, as people, I'm sure, want to get on with their day. But hopefully that was helpful, and I can send this slide out, and I can send a couple of exercises as well that'll help. So I will stop sharing.
That's lovely. Thank you very much, Suzy. That was great. And thank you for taking over that little slot.
That's okay.
Last minute. That's really helpful. I think somebody has actually asked